What's up, homies? Welcome to No One's Homies, kind of.
Well, it's a special episode, I
This is
guess.
Cloud.
Oh, what's up? This is Mark
Yep.
again, back from the dead.
And this is Roque. If you guys
And
Yeah.
tuned
we have
into
a
the prior episode,
special guest in the studio, but it's actually his studio technically.
Yeah, so if you're coming here from the Rocke's Modern Life episode, you know why we're here. But if you just saw it on the No One's Homie side, this is actually part 2 of an episode we did with Roque.
Mhm.
So part 1 is on his Rocke's Modern Life podcast, so you can search that to hear what we were talking about before this. But basically, it's a big sports Shmenter update. So yeah, why don't you start us off, Clau, with the second half?
Yeah, so before we took a break, we were talking about the NBA. We were just about to get into the play-in tournament. But at this very moment, we're also watching the start of the Spanish Gran Prix on F1. So we have a lot going on right now in terms of sports. I guess we can get into the Grand Prix later, or what would you prefer, Mark? Later?
Yeah, we can
now?
finish
I
up the
don't know.
NBA talk. I think we finish up
sure,
the NBA
okay.
talk just to
Alright,
keep
cool.
it in sync.
all right. Cool.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we've been sharing notes with Roque here. He was kind enough to put these together when he invited us to join him. And we last left off, we were done talking about our biggest surprises and disappointments for the season, but now we're talking about our the play-in tournament. So getting that conversation started, you guys saw LeBron's comments about it. You know, he was pissed. Whoever came up with that shit needs to get fired. You know, so what do you guys think about that? Do you think he has a point, or do you think it's just because the Lakers are in the play-in?
I mean, I think he has a point to an extent, but like, I'm honestly surprised with how the players have reacted to the play-in tournament, because obviously the fans love it because you get more intense games. Like towards the end of the season, normally these games would mean absolutely nothing. Like, you know, the star players would
True.
sit out.
There's still a
And-
little spice left here
Yeah,
for the last,
yeah.
like 10
And
games.
For the fans, we love it because these games are like crucial to like the ranks. Right now, I think in the East, from all the way from 4 until 10 or maybe even 11, it's like it's highly variable. So the Knicks right now are at 4, but they could slip all the way to 9 and be in the play-in tournament because that's how close it is.
That's
And
the East, though. Damn.
Yeah, and that's
Always
the
happens in the East.
East. Yeah, true.
More
And-
often than not.
yeah.
But even the West, man,
West
right
is
now.
pretty close
True,
too, though.
true.
West
Five-
is pretty close
5 to
at the-
10?
for even
5 to 10, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Yeah.
at
anything
it
could
right now.
happen. Anything could happen.
Yeah, and like I was saying, I was
Yeah.
just surprised with how the players were well, I mean, of course LeBron doesn't speak for all of the players, but I'm just surprised with how they perceived this whole play-in tournament. Like I thought it was gonna be like them being more hyped about it, like, you know, more important games, more like opportunities to showcase that you are like the best player in the world and all
I
that
think-
stuff.
I think it
And-
would depend on
Yeah.
which end you're on, right? If you're talking about
Definitely.
the teams at 10 and 9, obviously, like you're
Yeah.
you're hungry for this opportunity. On the LeBron end, I really do think, to be frank, it's just because they're in it. Like he didn't say
Yeah.
anything at the
They're
start
in,
when it was
right?
announced. He didn't say anything till
Last year
they
he
were.
said it was cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's why I think if you could probably search for a clip where he's talking about how cool it was, how positive it was, and then now that they're in
Yeah.
it and they're struggling, it doesn't seem so nice. Also, Mark Cuban had the similar comments when the Mavs were like a few months
Yes.
ago, when the Mavs were just at the brink of making it where they were in 7, 8, 9, 10 spots. So now, you know, I don't hear anything from Mark Cuban either that the Mavs are sitting at 5. So it's like.
Yeah, and I understand where LeBron's coming from, and AD, I guess, because like, you know, LeBron's in the latter years of his career, and normally this would be the time where he could rest up so that playoff Bron can like come in like fully healthy, fully rested, and all that stuff. And now he has to grind through these last couple of the games,
Sure.
and AD has a hard time staying on the floor. So this would have been the perfect time for
Yeah.
him to rest up as well.
But
But I think
I
for the
think-
league, it's good, dude.
I think overall is, since it's fair opportunity for everyone, that you just deal with it. You know what I mean? Like same thing with a 7-game playoff series. You have to manage the way your players can play, right, to make a deep playoff run. It's always been a factor. having injuries and making sure players are healthy at the right time. It just so happens that they only have one game to get it right if they're in the play-in tournament, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
In the 7 games, like, I can come back for game 3 onwards, and then we'll make it back. And here it's like, if I'm out for this game because I can't play, and this is the end of the year for us, it's definitely a worse feeling.
Yeah, and I think it's also like, you for the number 1 and 2 seed, or for the number 1 seed, it's kind of a crappy deal because you don't get to study your matchup for as long because you take time to see who it's gonna be. I like Zach Lowe's proposal, which was that the number 1 seed should be allowed to pick their opponent
Exactly.
from the 7-8 slots.
I agree.
Yeah, like I was actually okay with that because it gives them a sort of prize advantage for being like number 1, because like there's still a disadvantage to not being able to game plan as long for your opponent. That's just my
No,
it's
and I
still the
agree.
formation lab.
No,
Yeah.
it just started. It just
It's still
started.
the form.
I was just
Also,
talking about the
Yeah.
F1 that's on my TV in the background. It just started.
Yeah.
Just gotta see if anything interesting happening. Oh,
Don't say anything. I think I'm delayed.
I'm just gonna say Max made it in turn 1. Max is
Oh.
ahead.
But yeah, back
Oh,
to the
yeah.
play-in
Yeah.
tournament. Like, I think
Yeah.
yeah, like I listened to that podcast also on the Low Post podcast, and I agree because like
Mhm.
when you're first place, then what advantage do you really have other than you're playing than like the 8th seed? Like I think you
Yeah.
you kind of deserve like the right to just kind of like plan ahead and pick matchup advantages because like I think he was mentioning like if Philly goes up against like Washington, that's like I think that's pretty easy money. Like I think Philly's gonna take that
Mhm.
pretty easily. But if they play against the Raptors at 8, then it gets a little bit more interesting because they got a lot of big guys that have the potential to shut down the paint.
Matchup. Yeah.
Yeah, for matchup reasons.
Sure.
But
I definitely overlooked that advantage of not knowing who your opponent is, or disadvantage of not knowing who your opponent is till round 1. So I get it, but at the same time, I think if you're number 1 team, if you're truly a championship worthy team, you can deal with it. You have 7 games to
Yeah.
figure it out.
True.
I think it's not
That's
too
true.
big of a
That's
deal to ask
true.
from them.
definitely.
Yeah.
Because I like the idea of seeing these 9-10 seeds. There were years where these 9-10 teams were worthy of making playoffs because they were like even
Yeah.
records, stuff like that, right? There are years
Yeah.
where it's that
Yeah,
close, where all the
I-
way to 10 is
I
similar
do
record.
agree with that. Yeah.
So who do
so
you guys
we
think?
also have the idea of the brackets right now. As they stand, they still could change, right, Rox? If I'm
Yeah,
not
definitely.
mistaken. Yeah. So what do you think of these matchups right now? As we look at them, we have the Lakers versus Golden State 7-8. It is the West, sorry. And we have the loser of that plays the winner of Memphis
No, the winner
versus
plays the
San
winner.
Antonio.
Winner plays the winner?
Yeah, sorry, the loser plays the winner. Yeah, the loser of 7-8 plays the winner of
Alright.
9-10.
9-10.
Yeah.
And these are
And the
all
winner
one
of-
games,
the
right?
winner
Yeah,
of
the
that
winner
game
of
plays
the
the
winner of
winner.
7-8 gets 7.
So it's like 7-8. If you win, you're in the finals of the play-in tournament.
You get 7.
Right.
Pretty
and
much,
then-
yeah.
No, you get 7. Yeah, you get 7. You
Oh, you
automatically
play
get
off.
seven,
If you win
huh?
7-8.
Oh yeah, you're right. I
Oh,
guess.
Yeah,
okay,
you get
okay.
7. You get
There's
7.
2 slots up for grabs.
Yeah,
you're
and
right,
then-
sorry.
Yep. And then if you lose, which could
So the
totally
Lakers,
happen, let's say Golden
for
State
example,
versus
Lakers or Warriors would have 2 chances to make it into the playoffs. Basically, like they lose the first game, they can still win.
Yeah.
The second
Yep.
one
Pretty
to make
much.
it to the 8th
Yep.
seed.
Yeah.
Yep,
I-
yep,
it makes
which
sense
is a
'cause,
way
like,
more favorable matchup for either team.
I mean, at that point, man, there's not much to complain about if you're 7-8. You have 2 chances anyway. Come on.
Exactly.
If these teams are
Yep.
really not as
Yeah.
good as you to make it to the playoffs, then you can beat them. Warriors and Lakers, they
Yeah, and
should be
then
better
on-
than Grizzlies Spurs,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah,
Right.
Either team. I think either team beats the 9-10 to take the 8th seed. We were just talking about this before we started recording. How messed up is it for the Jazz and Suns, or like potentially either one of them, that if good job, you played spectacular seasons, you are the number 1 and 2 seed of the toughest conference, but you might have to play the defending champion Lakers with LeBron James and AD if they're healthy. And if they are healthy, like what the fuck? That seems so unfair.
As the Suns fan in this group, honestly, like I'll be fair and say like we just got to deal with it. Because even if there was no play-in tournament, there's 7 already. We would be playing the Lakers. This is the only chance where we say we might not have to play them actually, right? But it happens. I think it would happen every year. Like you could probably go look for a season where the championship team falls to 6 and has to play the 3 team. So it's like it would happen. The Heat, I think, were not necessarily like number 1 seed. Or was there a year where or Cavs, one of those years where they didn't have a good regular season. And it was all these LeBron to make it to the finals, right?
Yeah.
So what do you guys see your brackets
We
at?
can beat them.
Like,
We can beat them. That's what I'm gonna say.
Well, okay. I don't
Let's
know.
start with
I
the
don't
West.
know in terms of with the West. Yeah, I don't know about in terms of who I think will surely win, but my pick is I want to see Golden State take the 7 seed. Just because they totally can. They totally can beat the Lakers in one game.
I think it would be favorable for the Suns against Golden State.
Yeah.
Just thinking.
Yeah, I just want to see
Golden.
Golden State in. Yeah. And then I want to see the Lakers play the Jazz because that will be a true test of the Jazz's like competence. You know, like if they really are who people say they are, like let's see it. Let's put it to the test. You know.
Sure.
Definitely. Yeah. What about the East, Cloud?
How about you guys? Oh, we
I
can go
like
through
that.
your picks
I
first,
like that.
and
Alright,
then we'll go
cool.
through the East.
All right. So for me, I think, like, I mean, just objectively speaking, I think the Lakers, if they're both healthy as an AD and LeBron, I think they'll take that game. So I think they'll be at 7. So they'll be facing the Suns, and it's gonna be a tough matchup for Mark and the Suns. But I think after that, the Warriors face either the Grizzlies or the Spurs for that.
We
game.
play the Lakers tomorrow though.
Oh, interesting. So
Yeah,
that
so
would be.
a little
Yeah.
preview maybe.
But no LeBron.
And then
I
we
think
play the
no
Warriors
LeBron.
on Wednesday.
Ooh,
So another preview.
pretty tough road for
Oh.
y'all.
We'll see how it goes.
Here we
But
go.
between the Grizzlies and the Spurs, I honestly don't know who's gonna come out on top. But I'm just gonna give the benefit of the doubt to the Grizzlies.
I want to see the
And-
Grizzlies because
I was gonna say.
they got
Yeah.
knocked out last year, right? So it's like
Yeah.
give them a
Yeah,
chance.
and they have
this
Triple
year.
J back,
Yeah, but they've been losing apparently.
and
like ever since he got
Valenciunas
back.
playing well.
Triple
Yeah.
J. Who is this?
Yeah,
James
because he-
Jordan James,
Jaren Jackson Jr.
the editor of the Daily Bugle.
No, it's Jaren Jackson Jr. He's their power forward.
Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
stretch four.
Yeah.
He's really good, but not that great on defense, and I think that's why they're taking a hit as well. And Ja's been out, or Ja was out for a while. The Grizzlies they can't close games for some reason.
Yeah.
Whenever it's a
Inexperience,
close
maybe?
end, they struggle to close games. Maybe the lack of the player who can do it, like the Justice Winslow experiment. Like who knew he was there? I did, but guess what? It didn't work out.
Yeah.
It did not
Definitely.
You
work
could
out.
have
for him.
And,
replaced
like-
him with
So,
Stanley Johnson.
and
never
Josh
told
shot
the soul.
It's like not pure yet, and he just like relies
Yes,
on driving to
yeah.
the basket. And if the
Mhm.
I don't know,
People
the-
expect it.
Yeah, and the Warriors, I mean, Wiseman is a pretty good rim protector, but then if they face the Lakers, then the Grizzlies
not
are
the same
definitely
level.
gonna lose. Not
Yeah.
even close because
Yeah.
they're relying on Ja to create
Yeah.
shots, and if it's all at the rim, and then you have those freaking behemoths in
But
Los
I'll give
Angeles,
it
then
No chance.
no chance.
I'll give it in one game, do or die. Anything can happen, I guess.
True.
Always. That's
Sa-
why it is fun. That's why it's
same
fun.
like
fun,
the NCAA tournament, right? Where it's all knockout games. That's
Yeah,
why
March
like, the
Madness.
one seeds barely survive to the end.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like,
Yeah.
the Lakers have to show that they can win these do or die games, which is why they're champs in the first place.
Actually, I heard like
Yep,
this conspiracy on one of the pods that I was listening to that like LeBron actually wanted to drop the
That's what
7.
I'm saying, man.
Yeah,
Rope
diba?
dope.
Dude,
Rope
diba?
dope.
Like parang it's fucking scripted because
The
like
GM.
how much more would like it like make an emphasis that he is the GOAT if they played in the play-in tournament, played an extra amount of games, then went all the way to the finals and then won
And
it.
won.
Dude. Fucking
Kill
one
me
of
now.
those,
Kill me now is what I'm saying. Kill me now. If the Lakers win again this
it's
year.
that LeBron legacy building arc. Like people talk about like how he's shaping his legacy and stuff.
and
To
then
be honest,
yeah.
to me it wouldn't make a difference.
maybe
but
maybe
sure,
maybe he
sure.
said all of those like comments because like because this
You gotta
conspiracy
play it.
came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, yo, LeBron, bro, like you're getting obvious, man. Like you gotta put something out there.
Oh, that would be so good. They'd get more shit than the Astros if that ever leaked to be true.
But is that cheating though?
No, yeah, it's not
I don't know,
cheating.
man.
It's
It's
not
not
cheating.
cheating.
It's just a corny. It would just be a corny move.
Corny.
It would just be a corny.
It's more of like
move
a
by LeBron.
Jake
Yeah.
Paul and Floyd Mayweather type of thing. Like,
And I wouldn't
why?
put it past
That's
LeBron.
true.
I'm not a LeBron hater, but he's the type of guy who likes to do these like setup things,
Yeah.
Yeah.
manipulate
Yeah.
or like shape his own narrative.
Definitely.
He does it all the time.
Yeah.
Where his comments are always like never reveal too much or reveal just what you
Yeah.
want to get people
Yeah.
talking about what you want them to talk about.
Classic Bronny.
Yep.
And-
Oh.
And I think it's also like it's not like LeBron goes out, he gets injured. It's not like he's telling his teammates, okay guys, lose this game, now win this game. It's like, no, there's still of course there's still the factor of chance, and like Mark said, in one game anything can happen, and that happened to be the case when
that is
when
probably
LeBron and AD were out.
one argument where I think that conspiracy might fall apart. Why would you put yourself in this one game knockout danger, right?
Exactly.
Like you could win from number 6. It's fine.
Yeah.
Grind through. But
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
worth more,
That's
a ring
still a
or this
narrative.
risk? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, when
But it's in the-
LeBron's dropping
Exactly.
45, and like, I just feel like there's like a possibility where LeBron's just sitting in his chair with his glass of wine, just going, all according to plan.
And then AD doesn't know about this plan,
Yeah.
doesn't make the game. And then they
Yeah,
lose.
AD's like, yo, Bron, when can I come over again?
And that's
No,
why he's shooting Steph Curry in
Alright.
GTA.
Dude. No, I saw that. That was hilarious. All right. So moving over to the East, we have pretty intriguing matchups here. Well, we have honestly like two potential intriguing matchups, but the 9-10 is not that great for me. The 7-8, we have Boston versus Charlotte. Those are two. Well, we mentioned in the earlier part of in the Roque podcast. So if you guys want to head over to Roque's Modern Life, if you haven't heard that yet, we talked about how Boston was one of our biggest disappointments from this season, and
Charlotte was a surprise.
Charlotte's actually surprisingly good. So you guys can go ahead and talk about the Boston your picks first. Oh, and on the 9-10 we have Washington, the Wizards versus Indiana, who Indiana's actually been a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah,
this
they're
season.
pretty
We didn't really talk
disappointing
about
too.
that, but
Yeah.
I think they've underperformed. So you guys can go ahead and talk about your picks. I just have to step out for like a quick second because my dad needs technical assistance with his laptop. But you guys,
We've all
you
been
guys
there,
go
bro.
ahead.
We've all
Um,
been there.
I know, man. You
We'll
guys see
hold
an
it
empty
together.
screen here for a bit, but yeah, fill me in na lang when I get back. BRB,
Sure,
you guys
sure.
go ahead first.
All right, so I can start, Mark, if that's
Go
show
ahead.
with you. So in the 7 to 8, if the season ended today, but then like you also have to take everything with like a grain of salt here, because these standings can change drastically in the next couple of
Yeah, we
weeks.
still have a few more games.
Yeah, the
But let's
Knicks
just say
are
as of now.
yeah, as of now. So I think from all the way from 4 to 8, like it's pretty close, and the Knicks have a pretty tough road schedule up ahead. But yeah, let's just say if it ended now, the Celtics would face the Hornets in the first game. I think the Celtics take this one just from a pure talent perspective. I don't know if
They
Gordon
should on
they
paper.
should.
Right?
Yeah, on paper they should. If they don't, that would be a surprise. But my pick, I mean, if I had to put money on it, I'd put my money on the Celtics. So that would mean the Charlotte Hornets would face whoever wins the Wizards and the Pacers games. And honestly, with the way that the Wizards have been playing right now, like I think the Wizards take this one, because Brody has been an absolute terror. Bradley Beal is Bradley Beal.
True.
Like he's an absolute bucket getter. And
They
the
started
Pacers,
So slow at the
Yeah.
start of the season. Like
Yeah,
Russell didn't look
because
good
of
at
all
all.
of
But
the
now
injuries
kind of picking
and
it up.
COVID stuff.
Yeah.
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 And I just don't think
Yeah.
the Pacers have the
I don't think the
backcourt
Pacers can win
defensive.
this.
Yeah, they don't have the
And-
defensive
yeah.
matchup to stop Brody and Bradley Beal. So I think they take that one, and then so that would mean the Wizards play the Hornets, and that one's tough. Like I actually really don't know, because the Hornets are
It's
a
a-
pretty damn good team.
it's a toss-up, I
Mhm.
think, because I mean, like you have technically what is a more cohesive team on the Hornets, play like better team basketball, I would say. But the Wizards have two like beasts that on any given night can
Yeah.
just end you if they're just
Definitely.
feeling it.
They
Like
just go
their stat
supernova.
line from
Yeah.
today, wasn't it like a 50-point Bradley Beal game today with a monster triple double from Russell? So it's like, how can you beat
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. And
but
Yeah, that's true. And
Yeah,
they're
I've-
good. They're so good in the clutch. That's the thing. If it's a close game, the Wizards are statistically playing very well in the clutch this season.
sure.
So that's another thing to take into consideration.
But
So you
we'll
guys
also-
pick Boston to beat Charlotte?
Yeah.
Rocket did. I
I
would
did.
actually. I wanted to say the opposite.
Really? Okay, let's hear it.
Not that.
Mhm.
Honestly, I feel like the Hornets. They have this they have this way where it's like a LaMelo thing where they're ready to just show off and like show up the team that's
Yeah.
supposed to be better, like prove expectations wrong. Gordon Hayward has,
Yeah.
I think, especially against the Celtics, has like there's a little bit of a storyline of wanting to be the ones to
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
knock them out of the
True.
playoffs, something like that. So
Mhm.
so maybe I take the Hornets first. It's gonna be a tight game. I wouldn't be surprised if Celtics won either, but I'd say Hornets, and then Celtics against Wizards would still be a toss up in my view.
Really?
I think those 3, 7, 8, 9, any of them could be the two out of three could make it. The Pacers
Yeah.
I think pretty far back, but those three other teams, any two of them could make it. I wouldn't be
But I
surprised.
think with like the Celtics' reputation of hiding Kemba and being able to create defensive schemes against the point guard that basically is gonna torch up Kemba, because Kemba's was never really known to be a defensive stopper, and I think Brody's gonna
Defensive, yeah.
cook him. But like they have schemes for point guards specifically.
they
if I'm
have
not
wing
mistaken.
defenders with the
Yeah.
Jalen Brown, and like Tatum can still defend perimeter guard, so they could get away with it again if they ended up going against the Wizards. But yeah,
Yeah. They just
But
wouldn't
it's
sub
that thing
ever.
where you-
they just
yeah.
wouldn't play anyone off
the Wizards.
bench.
If when you have like monster players, it's sometimes in a one game, it doesn't have to be pretty. You just win it.
But let's
They
see
don't have
also
to-
Yeah.
with Brody though, because I mean, you know his playoff resume.
True,
It's not the
true,
best, dude.
true.
So we'll see how he shows up
Mhm.
this year.
I just like his redemption from early in the season to now. So I'm trying to ride that wave.
Yeah.
I think it's more of the. I'm
Yeah.
basing my
I'm
East
for
picks
that.
more
I'm for
on
that.
what storylines I want to see, because like the Celtics not making it would be ironic or like
Mhm.
tragic, but in the same way funny. And having the Hornets and the Wizards make it, although the Wizards probably not the best to put in the playoffs. It wouldn't be like competitive.
Yeah, because I think
But
they're getting
still.
bounced in the first
Yeah.
round.
Yeah. I'd
Well,
say-
same with the Hornets, if you ask me. I don't.
But,
think
like,
the
I
Hornets
would
be
like to
very
see a
competitive
younger-
matchup.
Well, that's basically LaMelo, right?
Yeah.
But who are the other young?
Yeah, you just want to
Yeah,
see.
just put
Yeah,
LaMelo in
that's
the
true.
playoffs,
I just
just
want to
one.
see
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Fair.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
hear it from you,
basically-
Clau.
I would like to see. I would like to see Boston versus Philly in the first round, because I feel like just for some reason that matchup could get weird. You know, like for Philly, like I know that Philly's been playing really well. But I just think that Boston is a team that if they just for some reason figure it out and get it going, they could surprise some people. You know, maybe make a matchup much tougher than you ininitially.
But who's gonna
expected.
stop Embiid
And
though?
I think they could do that. No one, no one is
No
gonna
one.
stop Embiid, but
Power.
but
of,
I don't see.
power of
Yeah,
friendship.
I just don't see their wing defenders being able to stop the wings either of
With
the
Ben
Celtics. So it would be an
Simmons?
interesting.
I mean, you could stop one.
You could stop one, but then
Tybal,
you,
bro.
you got the other, and
Matisse.
well, actually that's true, but I still don't think he could take down like stop a Tatum. You know what I mean? Like I
He's
think
good at
Tybal-
defense,
maybe
but he's
Simmons
better
at
could,
the
but
offense.
there's only
I
one
don't like
Simmons.
the matchup, but I meant like out of all those 7, 8, 9, 10 in the East, the Celtics are the best team there on paper. So they would give Philly
Mhm.
probably the hardest time either way. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
none of those teams have them like a center
Yeah,
that's like stands out anyway.
True.
Like who?
That's true.
Who's
That's
the
true.
center in any of those other
What
teams?
would be
I wouldn't
interesting
even know.
actually if Boston secures
Biz
the
Bambiambo.
seventh seed, like if they win the first game and they secure the
Mhm.
seventh seed, and you see a Nets versus Boston series, I think
still
that
good
would.
too. Yeah.
I
That
think
would
that
be
would be
interesting.
pretty
That would be
interesting.
That would be
interesting.
more even, I would say.
Yeah.
Because
I
they're
would say
all
that's
like
more even.
wing/guard dependent, so not a lot of action going on with the
If
bigs.
Harden gets healthy though, then I'm sorry, it's not that even. It's not like that.
Well,
When
but
all
we'll
three
see,
are
man.
on, it's
Playoff
just
Harden
fucked up,
there's
man.
has not
different
been the
different
best, though.
scenarios in the pressure of these
Yeah, playoff
moments.
Harden didn't have KD and Kyrie before either.
Fair. Fucking
I just
fair.
don't like.
You
Yeah,
know what
true,
I mean?
true,
Like,
true.
It's funny
when
because I was
Harden
actually
and
listening.
KD were on.
Sorry, go ahead, man.
You were listening to what? Sorry.
I was listening to our podcast a while ago, and then we actually that was the start of when the news started reporting that Brooklyn was interested in trading for Harden, and we all had a
Mhm.
consensus. Nah, that's not gonna happen. And fuck, man.
Well, it's also like
It goes to show you how much we know about basketball.
it's also like there are moments where it
Casuals.
doesn't always work. So I don't know, we're completely wrong.
Yeah. But damn, like when all three of them are there, it's like it's kind of fucked up, man. Because KD just doesn't. He just doesn't have bad games. Like he'll have one bad game in like every 2 years. But okay, Harden can go cold. Kyrie is only for like moment to moment possessions. But I don't know. It just seems like you could do a rotation where at least one of them is on the floor. So that's kind of fucked up.
There,
If you ask me.
there's also like,
It
I
is
mean,
pretty
like
fucked.
Kyrie's also a wild card. Anything can happen with him, depending on his mood. I don't want to make it like a big thing,
He's just
but he does have
yeah.
times where he's not playing because I think it's a more mental than actual physical.
Yeah, it's pretty
So,
ridiculous. Like
yeah.
how much how much of his personality affects like the whole like
True.
narrative of the game. Like, dude, did you know that his bill right now for the NBA of missing post game interviews is like $1 million now. Like that's
Jesus
just like
Christ.
I mean, dude, like it's part of being a professional, and like, I mean, obviously you have to take everything
You
I say with a
signed
grain
up
of
for
salt
this.
because fuck the Brooklyn
wouldn't-
Nets, but
I
like,
wouldn't say the way he approaches this is like endearing, because like you can have issues where you don't like
Yeah.
talking to the media. You have I wouldn't say like mental health issues right away, but like if you have like you're not always up for these types of things, then there's a way where people can approach it where people will get it, because you don't always want to be in front of a camera all the time. I
Right.
get it, but
yeah,
the way he does it
Yeah.
doesn't make him seem like it doesn't put him in a good light. All for me, at least the way
Yeah.
I perceive it. Like whenever I hear a story like that,
yeah, hard same. And I mean, like some
Yeah,
people
I-
love him though.
I agree with that.
Like some people really love that he says
I
whatever
mean-
is on his mind, but like, for me, I just feel like there's a fine line of being professional and being fucking needy.
well,
And
well,
I think
sometimes
he's more
even
on the lead,
what he
needy
says on his
side.
mind is like, I don't think it's correct the way he processed it. At least I don't agree with it. That's why it's like
Mm-hmm.
you can say what's on your mind, but the way you came up with your conclusion is by not being fair to these other people, not considering all the factors. It's always sometimes he looks a bit selfish.
One thing I'll
So-
give though the
Mhm.
Brooklyn Nets is they've been able to, like, either the team chemistry is really good and they respect
like
whatever
playing.
whatever
like
like
playing,
Kyrie
that's for
says,
sure.
or B they're really good at like keeping whatever chemistry issues is going on like in the locker room like fucking sealed airtight, because I don't believe that everybody is okay with the fact that Kyrie's been taking these like weird leaves and stuff.
Yeah. I do think though that since KD and James Harden are kind of the foundational pieces for the culture in the locker room, that when KD is cool with it, everybody else is just like, all right, fuck it, whatever. We're winning games.
KD
we're
is
number two
probably
right
the
now.
thing
I
that could
guess
keep
that's-
it together the most. I think James Harden,
Yeah.
no one will have a problem with him too much, but he's not the type of guy who can
Yeah.
lead a shift. I would
Yeah.
say like in the team culture, but he'll ride along because he just plays basketball anyway. So
And goes to
Yeah.
strip
He's
clubs.
just a baller.
to me, I mean, like he
But-
just
but,
shows up for the
uh,
games. That's the type of character that I get the vibe from him.
Right.
Like he's just like, I just want to play basketball. The rest of it is kind of like
That's an interesting narrative that I want to look at for Brooklyn, especially as the playoffs go along. Like, is there going to become an issue about like who takes the important shot?
Not unless they're winning
Not so much
big.
with KD, but But with yeah, for sure. But like or who's gonna take over in crunch time between Kyrie and Harden more than just KD or like
Sure.
with KD
I
involved.
don't
So
think it would
I'm
even be
interested
like
to
a
see what
personal
the
issue.
dynamic will be.
It would probably just show up in basketball that's not
Mhm.
very clean. Like
Yeah.
possessions that aren't
Yeah, it's like
moving.
it's a functional
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, I don't think they'd get mad at each other. They
Yeah.
don't seem like the type that would. It's more of just like it just won't look like good basketball because they don't know what to do
Yeah.
in those moments. Like who should get the ball? What player are we gonna end up running? Who's gonna take the
Yeah.
shot? So it affects it more in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
All I can say
enough.
is I'd be much happier if the Nets got bounced in the first round than if the Knicks made it to the second round.
Sure. Let's just get. I would.
I would
Brooklyn's a
literally.
strong
I think
team.
I get
I would
that.
be
Get them
acting
out
like
of
I
it.
won the lottery, like straight up, like fuck
Same
you,
with-
Brooklyn.
Same with me. If the Lakers got like knocked out in the play-in or in the first round, that would make me happier than if the Clippers like again didn't make the conference finals again this year. I'm like, I don't care, whatever. But like if the Lakers got knocked out, I'd just be like, oh well, what a shame.
What a
shame. All right, I think it's time we move on to the closing topics we have here. So we have about 2 more to cover. Right now we can talk about awards season. So the main awards that we're looking at right now are the MVP, Most Valuable Player, the DPOY, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved Player, the Rookie of the Year, and Coach of the Year.
We're not
we
gonna do
can-
Executive of the Year.
I think
Wouldn't
we
know
can
anyone's
beg
name.
off of that one. We can kind of go through each of these, say our picks, and then like so we do MVP,
Sure.
we each say ours, and then we do DPOY and so on and so forth.
Okay.
All right. So let's start with the MVP, guys. Or do you want to start with Coach of the Year? What do you think? Because I feel like MVP
I
is
think we
pretty
start
clear
from
cut.
the bottom.
Okay.
Start
okay.
from the bottom.
So
Alright,
so
cool.
Coach of the Year. What are your picks for coach? Or well, okay, if you
Ooh.
guys
This is gonna get spicy.
if you guys watched or listened to the previous or the first half of this episode on Rock's feed, then you already might know who Rock's pick is. But that being said, what are your picks, guys? Either one of you can start first.
Okay, I can start because you dropped it already. Obviously my vote goes to Tibbs, and the reason behind it is because just given the talent that the Knicks have, like literally other than Julius Randle, there's no one else really that's like a bona fide superstar. Yet we're sitting here in the 4th seed, and we're starting our games with Alfred fucking Payton, who doesn't know how to shoot, who doesn't know how to pass either, and I don't know why he's still starting, but he's starting, and we're in the 4th seed. So I just can't see how it's not him. But I will mention this. I do believe that I would not be upset if Monty Williams got it, because the Suns have done a spectacular job this season. Like even Mark, as a true Suns fans, at the start of the season, said that he would be okay with it around the 6th, or
That was
maybe
the top end,
let's
yeah.
say 5,
Six.
like 5 to 8 range. Like to be fair,
Bottom half. Bottom
half,
the
and
seeds.
they're sitting at number 2, and it's just really impressive what they've been able to do there. Like also at the same time, given the roster that they have, like they don't have the deepest roster. I mean, off the bench, it's like Cameron Payne, Frank Kaminsky, and like all of these other like borderline scrub role players. Yet they've been
Dude, we tried
really,
to
really
waive
well.
Frank Kaminsky. I think
I'm
just made it
surprised he's
back
still
on the
there.
team
I'm
somehow.
Still there.
and yeah, you just gotta tip your cap
He's
off
like
them.
a rash.
But
He's
I
like
think
a rash that won't go away.
Frank the Tank Kaminsky. But I think if those two don't win it, then there's some obvious rig shit going on there.
I don't know.
For me, well, I would love the Suns to win it, but honestly, I think the Jazz, Quinn Snyder,
Yeah,
might
that
win
was
it.
my pick.
Because
That was my
they're a
pick.
4 team that made it to the 1 spot. There's always a value in a
Fair.
team like that, because
Yeah.
it's like you become the best team in the NBA from whatever position. So maybe for the first year it happens, you would award the coach that,
Yeah.
because I mean 50 wins, man, in a 72 games.
I don't know, man, but just given where the Knicks and the Suns were prior to this season, like the Suns were expected to be like a bottom playoff team. The Knicks had the lowest over under, yet we're out here with the 4th seed,
True,
and the Suns are
true.
the 2nd seed.
Okay.
For me, that's why I think it gotta be Monty or Tibbs.
The
Okay,
Knicks would have
okay.
the if that's the criteria, the Knicks would have the best shot. Just
Yeah.
for the coach exceeding expectations for his team.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause,
If
like
if
the
I were
Suns when they
to
picked up Chris Paul was like positive.
Yes.
People thought it was positive.
Yeah.
So it was looking good for them. The Suns wouldn't change. I meant the Knicks weren't supposed to be here at all. Even more so. So yeah.
That's
But
kind of
my
like
gut says Quinn Snyder. Just the way
mine
voting would
too.
work.
Mine too. Because you have the Jazz, who are essentially the same team as last year, like in terms of roster. Mike Conley started showing up and looking like old Mike Conley, so that was like a big part of why
Finally
the Jazz
remembered how to
found
play
success.
basketball again.
Yeah, but okay, I see the argument for the Suns and the Knicks, and like Mark said, if it was about like moving from like one position, the Knicks too are pretty much the same team except for like a few additions and like young guys. But I think the biggest factor for me is that with the Knicks and the Suns, you have players like Julius Randle and Chris Paul who are having like Chris Paul is doing Chris Paul things. He makes everyone around him better, and that's a factor, and that's sort of like a tangentially coaching factor. It's not as much about the coaching, but it's still a thing, you know. Monty Williams and Chris Paul have a good connection as well, so you could say that matters. And then for the Knicks, who would have seen Julius Randle coming? I guess like that's my question.
Not
It's like,
even me.
Can you give it to the coach if the kid went supernova? Like but
Yeah, but
I
you,
see the
as a
argument.
coach,
I see
yeah,
the argument. He built
you should
around
get
it.
some
He built
credit.
around it. Yeah,
You
and you got Derrick
you always
Rose.
get the blame.
So
You always
Like,
get the blame for
no,
things going wrong.
And
as
even though
coach.
like you produce like an all-star player, like Julius Randle did the work. Like nobody can argue about that. But then the fact that he got the team to play well. I mean, other than Julius Randle, I remember at the start of the season in 2K, Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinsons were the only 80s in the Knicks lineup. Like literally, RJ Barrett was a 75. Emmanuel Quickly was a 71 at the start of the year, and like Reggie Bullock, who's their starting shooting guard, was like a 72. And it's just so impressive how we was able to get the team so cohesive, to be able to buy into the old school Tibbs like system. But in fairness, like I think I rebuke my take, and I wouldn't be surprised also if Quinn Snyder won it, because he's done a spectacular job there.
yeah, I think they're doing like a really great job. Plus the Jazz have new ownership, so they're kind of reinvigorated. I just think that's a big factor. But yeah, honestly, if any of the three won it, it wouldn't be like a huge shocker. It would just be like, good for you guys because you deserve it.
So
at this point.
it's not Doc Rivers at Philly.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, he's in the conversation because he unlocked something in Embiid, but it's like Simmons still hasn't been
He
totally
does that
unlocked.
to all teams.
You know? Yeah. But
All his
Simmons is
teams,
like
in fairness.
Simmons has more to be like seen. So
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think our three picks are the fairest picks.
Yeah.
The most deserving.
And for some reason,
Alright.
Tobias Harris only plays well for Doc Rivers. Okay. Why? But okay. Like how Lance Stephenson only plays well for Indiana.
Hey, Taj Gibson and Derrick Rose, dude.
You're right. I rebuke. All right. So next we have Rookie of the Year. I feel like this one's pretty clear cut, don't you guys? What are your? Do you have any?
I think it's
opinions?
Melo. It's pretty
Yeah.
clearly. Yeah, like despite
I mean, he
being
missed
injured,
games. That's the only reason.
but he came back. That's the
yeah,
thing.
he
I
came
think
back
if he
when
didn't come back,
was-
then it would have been more of a conversation for Edwards. But he came back, so
Yeah. You think Edwards over Halliburton, so to say, like because both teams are doing terribly anyway.
I think Halliburton has a more impact on winning, but statistically, it's Edwards.
Okay, that's fair. And then so Rookie of the Year, that was a wash. We knew that was
Yeah, we
going
go
to
Melo.
Be, yeah.
Yeah.
But honorable
Yeah.
mention to Anthony Edwards for not
sure.
being disappointing at the end of
Yeah.
the year. Initially, I was like, he doesn't look like a number one pick. Now it's like,
Yeah.
he could be number one pick.
Yeah, he straight up looked like Andrew
after he
Wiggins.
murdered Watanabe, it was just like it was like it's curtains.
All
for
the
this guy.
agents had to like take a right knee down and like just like bow for that
yeesh,
parade. So
yeesh. And the guy's playing well too, huh? That Watanabe, he's
Yeah.
Yeah,
actually
he's not a
bad.
rookie though, right? Isn't
Yeah,
he,
he's not.
like, just
He's
a
not.
10-date.
Yeah,
He came from the G League.
he was a
Alright.
two-way guy. Yeah. So next we have most improved, and I think this one should be pretty clear, right? Most
Right.
improved player.
Come on, guys.
Julius
Yeah,
Randle,
Julius,
right?
Julius
It's-
Randle.
it
Come
has
on, bro.
to be, man.
It's gotta
I
be
mean,
him. He's
dude,
so
I mean,
damn good this
The
year.
guy's averaging 24, 6, and 10 a game,
Maybe-
shooting
maybe-
42% from three, and is absolutely carrying this Knicks offense. Like you take
Maybe I
Julius
would-
Randle,
I'd put like a distant shout out to like Mikal Bridges because he did
Yeah.
improve a lot.
Yeah,
But
he
he
did.
did.
He did.
But
But
made
that
a jump.
leap from that leap of Julius Randle to where he's become like almost a superstar is, it's got to be the.
He's
the
an
reason.
all-star.
Same.
He's
It's like
jumped the
it's like
all-star
Siakam.
straight
It's like a Siakam thing.
No,
right?
and
Yeah.
it's interesting because like if you just look at it statistically, it's not the biggest jump. Because last year he was averaging about 90 and like 4 and 10, which is like pretty similar to this year's 24, 6 and 10. But
Yeah.
like the shooting from 3 went all the way from 29% to 42, and just given like the amount of responsibility and impact he has on the next offense and the next team in general,
Yeah.
it's like I don't think there's a conversation. If he doesn't win it, then there's some fucking modus going on.
I don't know who else could have gotten it, honestly. Like yeah, Bridges made a jump, but I still don't think it's in anywhere near the level of what
Yeah, I
what,
don't see anyone else who
what
would
Randall's
be able
doing.
to deserve it.
All right, next
Even
day,
Zion.
pretty
I guess
easy.
people could say Zion, but you
It's
know,
more
like,
of I think it was just injured in his first year. It looks like
yeah,
he's just
exactly.
about the same.
Yeah,
more
it looks like what he was
consistent.
going to be. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're good with most improved, unanimous once again. Defensive player of the year. I don't know if we think that this is a controversial category, but some journalists and players consider this to be a controversial category. Who are your picks? Who do you want to honorably mention? Anybody?
Mark.
Honestly, I don't really think about this too much because the defensive, the deeper stats, it just goes over my head.
Right.
If you had to pick, or if you're not aware of who the front runners are,
Yeah,
who would
give
you
me at least
guess?
the front runners.
Who would
then.
you-
I actually
if-
have the front runners up
Yeah,
here.
go ahead.
So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
right now, with the minus odds in the Vegas lottery, it's Rudy Gobert first because he's the only one
Okay.
amongst the candidates that has a top 6 defense in the league. And I think just the gravity that he brings to the Jazz defense, like their defense is literally centered around
It's
him.
anchored on him.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, his stats actually aren't, I mean, other than the blocks, which is ridiculous, which is 2.8 per game, which is really, really high.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. He's only averaging a steal. So, I mean, it's not like record breaking defensive playing. And it's like, it's not even a top 5 defense, but I mean, he's the only one out there with the top 6 defense. The other candidates are Ben Simmons.
Yep.
And the Sixers have I think they're number 9 right now in defense, and then a little bit after that, I think this one's a bigger gap between Ben Simmons and number 3. And the number 3 is Miles Turner, who's having a pretty nice defensive season, like 2.1 blocks per game and 1.4 steals per game, which is pretty impressive.
For a big,
But-
yeah.
Yeah,
Missed a chunk too of the season though.
yeah.
Like he got hurt. So there's that to take into consideration. I think it's really more of a conversation about Gobert versus Simmons.
Yeah.
Just give it a Rudy, man.
I mean, Rudy technically, statistically should get it. You know what I mean? But if you ask me who the best like defender, who would I have defend any player in the league? I'd pick Simmons. Simmons can defend 1 to 5. Like that's. I saw
But-
him lock down Dame Lillard earlier in the season, and I was
Right.
like, Jesus Christ! Like,
Yeah, I mean, he's a 6'10"
he
guard.
locked down
man.
Dame. Yeah, what the heck?
Fair.
But I mean, like, can you build a defense around Simmons though? Like, can you make him like the focal
okay,
point
that's
of your
fair.
defense? So, I don't know. For me, my pick is Gobert. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Bear.
I'll probably go with Gobert. I just like the idea of Simmons of Simmons being like a dark horse vote. You know?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got through defensive player of the year, and last but not least, we have the MVP. MVP. The front runner this year has been Nikola Jokic. It was like a 3-man race at the start of the season between Jokic, LeBron, and Embiid. LeBron got hurt, Embiid got hurt, Jokic kind of pulled ahead a bit, Embiid came back, and now it's more of like a wide gap 2-man race. But the favorites to win the
I would
favorite to win
argue
is
a third
Jokic.
man.
I would too. I would put him
CP3.
in the conversation.
Yeah.
He has
I'm
a plus.
going with the Charles Barkley take.
He's number
Chris
3.
Paul deserves to
He's
be
number
in
3 in the conversation.
Yeah.
He's number 3 in the rankings, but he's a +1. He's like a +1,000 underdog.
I think the criteria for MVP is always so fluid. People argue it so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
It's
But,
like who's most valuable for the team,
right?
who was
Yeah.
the best player in the league, like what
Wouldn't
is it?
LeBron just win it every year? You know,
Yeah,
like, that's
so
what, that's
if
what
you're
people
talking about
say.
stats, although I don't think he would win it this year because he just didn't get to play as much.
Yeah.
But the Chris Paul thing is like, how do you make a team next level, right? Like,
Mhm.
isn't that the at least if that's the criteria, isn't that the perfect answer that this guy brought a team of young, who I would say like stars to the next level and showed how good they can really be when they
Yeah.
have someone like Chris Paul.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems
I
like a
would
good
love for
story,
him
but
to
that's
win
like that's basically like a Nash MVP.
Yeah. I would love for him to win it though, just cause that's my boy. That's my number one dude. Chris Paul's my guy. But I see also like why Jokic is the front runner. He hasn't missed a game at all this year. He is already considered to be the best passing big man in the history of basketball. But actually, when you think about it, Roque, I don't know if you listened to that recent Bill Simmons podcast, the total Jokic-gasm.
I saw a
Um,
clip.
but-
Yeah.
Yeah, they were talking about it, and they were saying this guy's not just the best passing big; he's one of the best passers we've ever seen
Yeah.
play
Definitely.
basketball, and that's pretty remarkable. And he got himself in shape. And even with Murray out, they were like what 9-2. Now they're 9-2. They were 9-1, and everyone thought they were gonna take a significant dip with Murray out with an ACL. But no, it didn't happen because Jokic he's the kind of player that looks for the double team. Like he wants you to get off your man. There was one play because they beat the Clippers without Murray after the ACL already, and there was this one play. I was just watching Jokic on the offense. I was like, okay, because I watched him eat us alive in the playoffs last year, so I wanted to see like what's he gonna do without his supernova, and he just did this one thing where they passed him the ball and somebody was trying to rotate, and then they saw that he was on a smaller man, so they doubled him. Jokic didn't even look like to the other end of the court to the guy he was passing to because he saw the other 3 players that were in their position, and he was like, okay, this guy's gonna be over there, and he just threw it, and the guy got it, made a 3, and I was like, this is some fucking ridiculous
It's a
shit.
fucking joke, and that's what he is, man. He's the Joker.
He's the Joker. He's the Joker. It's not about the money. It's about making a point. It's crazy.
Dude, it's crazy. And I have the stats right here, just to read it to you guys. So he's averaging 26 points per game, 8.5 assists, 10.8 rebounds, and the steal and the block while shooting 57, 40, and 86 splits.
That's so
So,
wild. That's
It's just
so
insane.
ridiculous.
And we've never seen a player like this guy before. And
Yeah.
like, I think you just, at some point, you have to like tip your cap off to him. They were like the first seed last year, or were they? Or like 3?
They were they were top. They were one of
But
the
yeah,
top.
like top 4 seed, and
Yeah,
you know,
LA was number 1 for sure.
and just the
LA
way
was
that he's
number
been able to elevate the games of Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. and how he was able to
Yeah.
find them in their spots and bring it all, get them
Facu
to the
Campazzo.
example Campazzo, man, like just making everyone on the court better. But that
Yeah.
being said, my MVP is Julius Randle. It's gotta be Julius Randle.
Oh man,
He is the most valuable player.
Didn't see that one coming. All right. So we got through MVP. I feel like that was also a pretty unanimous. Well, okay.
No, it wasn't.
fine.
We had 3
Fine,
different
yeah,
picks.
that's right. I
It's
didn't
not about
realize.
unanimous.
No. Mine's Jokic. Mine's Jokic.
Yeah. Jokic's gonna win. Jokic's
With
gonna
the
And even
objective
if
hat
these are-
on, it's Jokic.
These are just the picks that are like sentimental.
The emotional picks, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like I also love the love that people are showing Chris Paul because he
I think Chris
really
Paul
is.
can win based on that criteria. I just don't
Yeah.
think that's the criteria that will be
Yeah.
used by the voting like media.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Maybe 1 or 2 votes you'll see like
Mhm.
someone who was also sentimental saying like him leading a team like that should mean
Mhm.
more to the
Mhm.
season. But at the same time, most of the objective people who look at the stats and do it for a living should pick Jokic.
Or you know what
Yeah.
would be so hilarious if everyone was like, okay, I know everyone else is picking Jokic. I think I'm gonna pick CP just to give him because he deserves this
I
props.
think they
Ends up
discussed
And
it.
he
Ends up winning the MVP. That would be so damn good.
That would be so
Uh,
good though. I'd be so happy for Chris Paul, man.
Me too. Yeah. And then they
I
win
love
the
me some Chris
championship.
Paul.
Oh, that would be so wild. You'd think I wasn't a Clippers fan. All right. So I think we can move on to our bold playoff predictions. This is the last segment that we're going to do of the NBA. We'll do some quick F1 talk after this, and then we're going to wrap it up. But yeah, we have bold playoff predictions coming up. Guys, what do you think will happen? And no lame answers I think that the
Knicks are winning it all.
or the LA Lakers will actually make it past the play-in tournament. That's not a prediction.
I think I'll go with mine, which is just riding along with my team. I think the Suns have a chance to win it this year. I just have this belief that the way they've played against the top teams in a 7-game series in this kind of NBA where things are more open, they have enough firepower to get it done. It ain't gonna be easy, and I think a lot of things have to fall into place. Like if they went up against Brooklyn in the finals, man, maybe the odds of them winning would change. But they can. They have it. I think they've shown enough to say they can win it. Yeah, so that's my bold prediction. They should at least make the West Finals. I don't think the Jazz can beat them. The Jazz is #1 seed, but I think they're better than the Jazz.
I agree.
In a 7-game series.
Yeah, and Aiton's not exactly the most important factor in the Suns. It's all
But
of the moving
he
pieces
does it
around
well.
it.
He does everything a
Yes.
bit better now than before, where
Yeah.
Yep.
it's enough.
And he's
to
a
really
little bit
make him-
scrappier. He's just getting
Yeah.
a little bit more of that chip on his shoulder as the season goes along. Chris Paul's starting to rub off on him a little bit.
Which is great, man.
And they
he
have
finally
a lot
remembers
of
that he's a
glue guy
7-foot behemoth.
X factors. Jay Crowder.
Jay Crowder.
Mikhail Bridges is gonna have a big game.
Yep.
Even their bench players like Javon Carter, things like that. They
Yeah.
can bring some
Make a difference.
energy off the bench. I think they can
Yeah.
do it.
Frank Kaminsky.
I just don't like him when he takes threes from the top of the
Thinks he's
top
tough.
of the yeah.
It drives me crazy when it's like a dying possession and he decides to take it into the post for a fadeaway jump shot. I'm like, bro, it'll work. I'll give it to you once a game. Stop taking it when the shot clock's dying.
It's not our bread and butter for these.
Yeah, pass
kind
the
of
ball
man.
to
possessions.
Booker.
He was like the NCAA Player of the Year, man.
True.
Frank Kaminsky.
Maybe
He's
he
got
could
the
try it. He could
pedigree.
go back to the NCAA and try that. All right, I'm gonna go next with a bold prediction, and my bold prediction is that the Clippers are gonna shock the world this year. We're coming for it. It's our
Do you-
revenge season.
Do you really believe that? I just
Huh?
don't.
I
think
do.
it's.
I do. I've been watching us. We're figuring it out, and DeMarcus Cousins looks good for some reason. He looks good, and we're just figuring it out. Like we have the highest 3-point shooting percentage in the league, the highest free throw shooting percentage in the league. We don't have the highest free throw attempt rate, but I think come the playoffs, if our guys just keep jacking it in the middle and keep getting fouled, everyone can shoot free throws in the team. The only one who can't is Rondo. I think he's the only guy. And Rondo has changed the trend of the Clippers of when they're losing and they just kind of give up on themselves. That's a very Clipper thing. It was happening even in the first half of the season before we got Rondo, and something just clicked. I think it was more like he became their safety net. Even when he doesn't play, and he talks to them, he's able to get them to change the pace of the game, and people don't end up standing around doing ISO ball. It's still a sickness they have, especially when they play against teams with superstars. So when we played against the Nets, we were beating them when we were using our ball movement, but then when KD and Kyrie started making shots, and PG and Kawhi were like, "Oh, I took that personally," and then they try and start making their own shots. Of course, they're not gonna beat these guys on ISO plays. So I hope that we can stick to our system. If we can do that, I think we have a real shot. And if Serge comes back healthy, that would be helpful as well. because I think our role players are doing a good job.
Sure.
I'd like to see less Luke Kennard minutes, but
Dude, you were so happy about Luke Kennard in the prior episode. You were just
Dude.
like, he's basically Larry Shamet, but can do a little bit more. I love
Dude,
it. I love it.
I hated him when he started out, but after that Hawks game where he just went off, like he just went fucking
Yeah.
off, man. We were down by 20. The coach threw in the towel in the third quarter. We had our scrubs in. Luke Kennard suddenly like hits a half-court shot, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, we're back in this." He took the game. I was like, "Damn, man."
He's the Frank
He's my-
Kaminsky of the LA
Of the Clippers.
Of the
Yeah.
Clippers.
No, our Frank Kaminsky's Patrick Patterson. That's our Frank Kaminsky.
Defo. But I mean,
That guy-
I see the Clips on paper. I think they have a pretty well built roster, and
I
they.
don't buy it though.
I feel like they could make it to the Western Conference Finals. Then I don't know, but the West is just so hard to tell because
Yeah,
they're
man.
all so good teams, and
Yep.
I think the deliberating factor will be PG.
My
playoff
thing
P.
is they've just burned like this kind of prediction every single time.
That's why I'm
Every
picking
year
it.
that they're supposed to take it against
I'm picking it
Travis.
because no one else is. That's why I'm picking it. I
Sure,
hate it when they're the
sure.
favorites. The Clippers are terrible favorites. They're great underdogs.
Yeah.
When you get burned and they lose the
Yeah.
first series.
I would not be
4-2.
surprised. I would not be surprised if we lost to the Mavs in the first round. But
No,
I gotta.
they're against the Trailblazers.
Oh,
If it ended
wow.
today, right?
I
yeah.
also
Yeah,
I
yeah,
also
yeah.
would not be surprised if they lost to the Trailblazers in the first round. Though this year, we played very well against the Trailblazers.
Yeah,
Like,
I put my money on the Clippers over
Yeah,
the
we locked-
Trailblazers.
because we
If
just
it's
said fuck it.
Mavericks, oof.
Well, no
Yeah.
KP. I don't know. KP's still out, and
He's a scrub.
he was the big factor. And now against KP, we have like a bully Cousins to just use up fouls and injure him or something. I
Yeah,
don't know.
Alright,
Like-
make him whine and shit. You know.
Yeah, dude, that's
I'd
the
bet
thing.
they beg to
I'd
differ that
never. I'd
they're a
never.
better team without KP.
I can't fight the Clippers
That's
when you're
fair.
talking stuff on paper. When you're
No,
talking
and-
theoretical, but like
I'm
it's
just-
just
I'm
whenever it's time for them to show it, it's like, no,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
there. So
I just think that it's also a matter of personnel. We've changed up a few things. Like bringing in Rondo and Cousins was not as seamless as we wanted it to be either. But like against the Nuggets, that game where Jokic did that ridiculous pass that I was so blown away by. We couldn't. Zubac couldn't do shit against him. And obviously Pat Patterson could not do jack shit against him. And then so Jokic put like what 25 on those guys, and then when we put Boogie on him, like I get it. DeMarcus Cousins is not the DeMarcus Cousins of his prime, but when he was on him, we stopped him to 5 points. Like he didn't score. Like and he passed the ball, yeah, sure. And Boogie's kind of shitty on defense in transition, but I just think that it's a factor we didn't have before. And if we have a healthy Surge, I think we have a shot. But if
Yeah.
Surge is out, it's gonna be a bit of a climb.
Yeah, but I agree though because like I mean, despite all of the banter that everybody gives Paul George for being playoff P, pandemic P, like it's just the past couple of years where he hasn't really showed up. But then let's
Yeah.
not forget that when he was in Indiana, he was
Indiana.
actually fucking killing it in the
Yeah.
playoffs, man. He beat the Knicks team that won like 54 games in a 5-game series, and then
Yeah.
he showed up against LeBron and the
LeBron.
Heat and the
Yep.
Heatles. So
Yeah.
I think it's all
Heatles.
on playoff P.
All up in
Yeah.
yeah. That's fair. If he has to show up mentally,
Yeah.
'cause physically he has a bone edema. That's a thing he has to play through. That's just facts. You can't use that as an excuse. But mentally, he can't check out anymore. If he's not making his shots, he has to start charging into the paint, getting fouls, whatever. He's been getting more foul calls recently, so hopefully that means even in the playoffs he can draw better fouls. So let's see how it goes.
You just gotta
Obviously, I
try.
don't feel great about this. I don't ever feel great about a Clippers pick,
I know how you
but but I have to believe in them this year because that if I don't, like, we're probably gonna lose Kawhi, and if I just feed in the negative energy, I'm just gonna feel worse by the end of it. I might as well have high hopes and get disappointed than make myself feel bad the entire time.
Fair. I've been there, man. I've been there.
Speaking of being there, what's your bold pick for the season?
All right. So let's just say the season ended today. So how the
Ooh.
standings are right now, and for my first bold prediction, so how the rankings set up right now is the Knicks are at 4 and the Hawks are at 5. I think the Knicks will make it to the second round. I think we can easily take, not easily, but I think we can take on the
Yeah,
Hawks
sure.
pretty. I can confidently say that we're currently tied. We're only up by like half a game. But yeah, if we get the Hawks, then I think we can make it to the second round. It gets a little bit more tricky if the Heat makes it to the 5th seed, because I would not want to face the Heat in the first round,
Yeah.
because I just feel like with that playoff championship experience that they bring, and the matchup of Jimmy on RJ and Bam Adebayo and Randall, I think that's just gonna be so tough. So
Yeah. No
but
one wants to
if
see the Heat.
yeah,
No
nobody
one
wants to see the Heat.
Heat.
But if it ended today, I think the Knicks would make the second round. And my other bold prediction is, if the season ended today and the standings are as they are right now, then the Nets will play the Celtics. And I mean, if everybody's healthy and they're playing well, the Nets will take that. And then the then the Heat will play the Bucks. It's tough to say who comes out of that Heat Bucks series, because you can never count out the Heat, because that's just who they are. But if the Bucks make it out of that series and play the Nets, I think the Bucks will beat the Nets.
Huh.
That's my bold
I think
prediction.
they could. Yeah, I think they have
because
the personnel. Yeah.
exactly. I think Drew can absolutely shut down at least one of them,
Yeah.
like
yeah.
either Kyrie or Harden,
And then you have Giannis and
on
PJ
KD.
Tucker.
Yeah, definitely. And who's in the paint to stop Giannis from getting into doing what he wants?
Yep. DeAndre,
No
nope.
one.
Claxton, nope.
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 Yeah. And
Blake Griffin, nope.
people forget about Brook Lopez. Don't forget about Brook.
Yeah.
You know, like, he hasn't had a great season, but that dude is 7 feet, can play the post and shoot the 3. Like, that's no joke. That's a problem.
It's a problem, man.
And if you have DeAndre coming out in to close out on a 3-point shot, and then you have Giannis cutting in, you're kind of fucked, man.
yeah, you're pretty fucked. And
Yeah.
I think like the storyline of the postseason will be Drew Holiday, because I think he's the type of
I
player
would love that.
that doesn't really do much in the regular season. He impacts winning like crazily, but then you don't
Yeah.
really see it so much because he's not really a stats guy.
Yeah.
But I think when you put him there in crunch time against Harden or
Mhm.
Kyrie, he will absolutely lock him down.
Talk about best defenders in the league, right? Like,
Right.
talk about NBA all first team defenders. Like,
Dude.
Drew Holiday is
Yeah.
in that list. For
Definitely, you
sure.
got Drew Holiday, you got Ben Simmons, you got Frank Ntilikina. Like, it's the top 3, dude.
You motherfucker. You got Alfred Payton.
Oh no, fuck that guy, dude. Get him out of my team.
Teach him how to shoot. Yeah, all right. So those are our bold predictions for the season, for the playoffs. I'm really excited for this playoffs to start, and I'm excited to even just get the play-in tournament started. Before we talk about like some last few things, guys, if you are just joining us or happen to skip ahead to the NBA talk and you didn't hear about it earlier, the first half of this episode can be found on the Rock's Modern Life podcast feed on your favorite podcast apps. So please check them out there. This is like a 2-part thing, trying to spread the love for this local podcasting scene. Rock has been hustling out here, so we really gotta give the man some props. Thank you for putting this together, and it's a great idea. Now, before we actually wrap things up, Mark and I are currently watching the Spanish Gran Prix, and things
More
are
than halfway over.
It's
I
more than
guess.
halfway over, yeah. So Mark, you wanna like just give a bit of an overview? What are we looking at here? And what can we expect? How does this affect the rest of the season?
Well, basically, it's the fourth race right now. Fourth race
third.
of the season.
Isn't it the third? In the third,
No, we had Bahrain,
Portugal.
No, we've had
Oh yeah, fourth. Because there's Italy.
yeah fourth
Yeah,
race of the season, and then the season basic storyline is Red Bull's #1 driver Max Verstappen can challenge Lewis Hamilton for the world championship. Very close. And then so far Max has won 1 race, and then Lewis is still ahead in the world championship because I think Lewis won the other 2 races.
Mm-hmm.
So this fourth race, the main idea is, let's see if Max can catch up in the points. And then he qualified second to start the race. Lewis was first, and then we saw, I think he overtook him in the first corner.
First corner, yeah.
So he's leading the race right now. And usually this race, the Spanish Grand Prix, people know it not to be the most entertaining race. So for him to take lead in this first one is pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, like in the first
it's
corner,
known to be
like you
not
don't have a lot of
entertaining because there aren't
opportunities.
many
Yeah.
overtakes. Is what people like.
Right.
Like not many
Yeah.
overtake opportunities during the race. Yeah. So,
I'm just
but it's
curious
actually
also.
pretty close right now. It's like a .74 interval
Oh, wow.
on
Yeah,
my
we-
feed.
I gotta
I
turn
got
on
a question for
commentary
you
to
guys
figure
real
out what's
quick.
going on.
So like we were talking off air that in a season there are like about 20 something races, and like the total points like goes to the car brand or team that tallies the most. And you
Mhm.
guys said that Mercedes have been winning for like the past 7 years, like it's a dynasty. Is it because of more of the racers or the tech that goes into creating, not tech but the engines,
engineering.
like the engineering and
Yeah, that's part of
contraptions.
it. The manufacturers who kind of come up with the correct developments for that generation usually end up winning a lot, because it's
Mhm.
like they usually make a big generational change, and then they'll do smaller increments for years after till they decide to make another big incremental change. So in like video games where it's like the meta, so it's like
Right.
Mercedes is the current king of this meta. They own the correct engine, they know how to develop it properly, so it's been hard for teams to challenge them. So they've won the last 7 straight um world championships as constructors, with
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton winning most of the drivers, and the only other time was his teammate winning.
So like,
that's
yeah,
that's
given
the tough part.
given that like Mercedes and Ferrari, I guess, are like the top, the top teams that pretty much own these world championships. Is there like ever a possibility that like there are like upsets of other manufacturers, or is it really really slim?
You would have to go back to maybe like 2009. There's a team that's called Braun GP, which was basically the team that Mercedes is now. They bought that team. So like there was a team that went bankrupt before that season, and then one person named Ross Braun, who's like a influential F1 figure, kind of took over the team. He bought it for like $1, something like that, just to make sure it stays on like in the competition. Then the other manufacturers helped them get a car together. Basically like they donated parts and stuff.
Mhm.
And then they ended up winning that season because they came up with some crazy development to their car.
Yeah,
that-
like
that,
a Frankenstein car.
Not really. I mean, it's like super technical with the aerodynamics and stuff, but it just let them have an advantage, and then they ended up winning that season. Jenson Button, a UK driver, won the drivers' championship, and then they won the constructors. And then
Mhm.
after that, they were bought by Mercedes. So it's like then Mercedes is the champions now. So there's like a
Like a
lineage there.
monopoly.
Yeah. But no, not usually. F1's like football. Like it's money drives a lot of you having the best drivers, the best
Yeah.
cars. It's just hard to get away from the richest teams making the best cars.
So what makes it exciting for you guys then, if you pretty much know that these top tier manufacturers slash teams like always come out on top?
Well, one, I usually root for Ferrari, so I do root for a top team, so we always have a chance. But there's always like smaller stories in play. Like the midfield right now is very competitive. So after the first 2 teams, Red Bull and Mercedes, the next or the next 4 teams are basically even. So every weekend there depends how they set up their car, which how it should be at the top, I guess, right? Like it's your setup on that day or that weekend should matter most. Everything else being equal. So that's what you see in the midfield. That's what you want for technically the world championship.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then
Oh yeah. Go
they try to make regulations like even out. Like they're working on like cost caps so that the richest teams can spend way more than the smaller teams.
I think they should.
And also like limiting how much development the rich teams can do, so that even if they have money, it's not like you could add anything more. There's like cap
Yeah.
limits to how they do, so that the cars are somewhat equal. Yeah.
For me personally, I am like a more casual fan than Mark of F1. I used to watch it like when Vettel was still in Red Bull. That was about like the peak of my fandom for F1. I was in high school, and But I dropped off after. I didn't really pay attention to the schedules either, I guess. And then obviously Netflix's Drive to Survive came out. Mark put me onto that. After I watched it, it became way more engaging because I learned the smaller storylines. I do enjoy the pageantry of it all. You know, it's just such a competitor sport. Everybody
It's got
seems
some
to be
glamour to it. The fact that
Yeah.
these cars are
Right.
like, these people are basically like drivers of the most impressive cars in the world,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
do it on like a without like making it look easy. Because even the
Yep.
worst driver, he's driving something at like 300 plus kilometers per hour. Like
Yeah.
for them to control it for like a 2 hour race is kind of insane whenever
Yeah.
you think about.
I'm just curious also as to like let's say like you're a driver for like one of the worst manufacturers slash teams.
Mhm.
Like if you're a good driver, then
Mazepin.
Mercedes would just like sign you, right? Or is there like
Us-
signing
there-
restrictions? For,
There are no, actually, it's basically that those drivers are usually the ones who end up in the worst teams are already like in the junior driver program of a bigger team.
Mhm.
So like Ferrari has a driver academy where they bring you up from the lower divisions, which is F3, F2,
Mhm.
and then they bring you into an F1 team that they work with. That is basically right now Mick Schumacher, who is the son of Michael Schumacher. He's on the worst team in F1 right now. Like they're always last place, the two of them, or at least almost always. I think last week he was like 18th out of 20.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's like he's if he does well, his trajectory is to go to Ferrari. It's not for him. It's just they need him to learn while he's on a lower team because they need
Yeah.
the best drivers right now to try to win races
Yeah.
in the main team. So there's a lot of that. Red Bull has two teams. They have the regular one, and then they have a team called Alpha Tauri, or it used to be
AlphaTauri.
Toro Rosso. So that's a second team that they own, that they put F1 drivers in, and then they move them into the main team once they're ready, or they show.
So like when you're
potential.
in like the lower teams, it's not the man like fuck my life, fuck my why am I
No,
in this team?
no.
It's more of like I'm preparing for this
But it
next
depends.
one.
If you got knocked down, like there's a driver, Pierre Gasly, who was driving for Red Bull and then got demoted to Toro Rosso, which is now Alpha Tauri, and that kind of took a hit on him. But then last year he was able to win one, I think. So it was like. It was just a crazy ride of emotions, and those are the things that like the fans look for, right? Like we're looking for those moments where the storylines all add up, and it just you see something beautiful like that.
Right.
And these guys are always so gracious, like in defeat. Like I think that's what I like about it too.
in
like,
F1,
good
it's pretty.
culture.
People are pretty realistic about where you can end up. Like
Yeah.
these midfield teams have no they don't imagine themselves winning the race. They understand that if I get a fifth, that's the best I could have done for this, and getting points and making your team perform to the maximum is all you're really trying to do.
Yeah.
So like, people don't feel bad that they're not winning races. Well, of course they want to, but they understand that they can't if they're not in the right team or in the right car.
And do you guys like how it's like the playing field is set out now, or would you
No,
like there to be
could be
more
better.
competitive?
Could
Yeah.
be
It really
better.
could be better.
Could be
There were
more
years-
balanced at the top.
There were years
Yeah.
where I think like 4 or 5 teams could have won the world championship in 1 year.
Yeah.
So there have been periods where it's been more competitive. Next year they're making big changes. Basically, they're changing the whole meta again of what the car is supposed to be, or the philosophy of how cars develop. So that's kind of a fresh restart for everyone. So maybe next year is where you see whether Mercedes might not be the #1 team anymore if they don't
Mhm.
get their development right, and you might see it being more even, because they're working on it. The people in the office of F1, they're working on regulations that are supposed to make it more even and more competitive races.
Yeah, and I think that's like the beauty of sports for me, is like just seeing the underdogs like overperform, and just seeing upsets, and like I mean if you kind of know who's gonna come out on top every single year, that kind of like takes out the exciting factor of it for me at least.
There are, I mean, it's like this season or the past few seasons probably aren't the best in F1 history. Like if you look back, aside from the fact that Lewis Hamilton has shown domination that broke every record that exists, but like if you watch if you watch a movie like Rush, the one with the Chris Hemsworth,
Mhm.
That's like it's an F1 story from like the 70s. Like you'll see some more.
That's
I
a
guess
good
like
movie.
it's more romanticized how exciting it could be. Or you watch the documentary about Ayrton Senna, one of the best drivers
That's great.
ever.
That's a great
So
docu.
so those are the ones I would recommend if you want to understand like why people might really just end up being a fan, even though sometimes it looks boring. Like there are races where nothing happens, and
Mhm.
I know I was like it really is boring, but you keep watching because of the what could happen.
Yep.
Cool.
And you hope it rains so that it's
True.
more interesting.
True. if you watch a race in the rain, it's insanity.
Yep. You wonder like how are they still driving so fast? Because when you see the camera that's from their perspective, it's like Jesus. There's nothing. It's blurred.
There are some races where it's
It's
like
blurred.
so. The reason why the
Blurred.
rain is crazy, guys, like there have been races where a midfield team has won the race because of the rain, just because it like they started in like bought like 5th to 10th place and they end up winning, and that's what you're like. Those are the moments you're like, wow, this is crazy. Because even they know how those teams appreciate it even more because they're not winning week in week out.
Yeah. Okay, with that being said, I think that we have covered everything
lot.
we could
Two-
cover. Yeah,
two-
yeah.
This is a 2-episode
Yeah,
affair.
pretty dope.
I
Great
think
idea
even
doing
for
the
our
2
standards,
thing.
this is a long episode on the No One's
Yeah.
Home side, and there's
Yeah,
more. If you haven't listened to the part 1 on Roque's podcast, then
Yeah.
you can
I
have
think
more.
there's got to be a
right?
record,
Yeah,
man. This is
yeah.
like we're touching 2 hours.
Yeah.
No, Klau's the record yet for 3. Somewhere.
wow.
somewhere deep,
No,
deep
I've
in
never
there.
done 3. I've never done
Not the one
3.
with wax.
No way. That was
What
like an
about-
hour 30. That
What
was
about
like
the
an
one
hour
with
30.
Joe Rogan, dude?
Maybe. It would be. It would be if I was on his podcast. So yeah, thank you, Roque, for bringing this idea to us and for inviting us to
True.
do this conversation. We were a bit rusty, but I think we had a lot of fun with this one. I
True.
definitely did.
Mhm.
And to everybody that's listening now, don't forget the first half of this episode can be found on the Rock's Modern Life podcast feed on your favorite podcast apps. You can follow him also on Instagram and Facebook. Where else can they find you, Roque?
Pretty much everywhere. I'm on YouTube as well, Instagram, Facebook,
You
Anchor.
got a
Your
TikTok?
favorite.
The TikTok.
I can make one for you, bro.
There's nothing on it. It's just like, yeah, you can follow it. Nothing happens.
Actually, there is a TikTok, but it's just like a couple of ads, and that was like run by Dubs Winicky, my guy, but very not active. But yeah, Rock's Modern Life. I also have a Shopee link, so if you guys appreciate
yeah.
the content that I've been putting out, you know, it would mean a lot to me if you use my
Nice.
link to order whatever
Whatever.
kalokohan you want.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Dope.
With that being said, this was a Sports Shmenter segment by 2 podcasts. This was such a dope collaboration. I'm glad we got to do a second part of this.
True.
We're all excited for the sports in the world as the world comes back to normal from being in a pandemic. Thank you again, Roque. For No One's Home, this is Clau.
This is Mark.
And this is Rocker from Rock's Modern Life. Peace out, guys.
Peace.